What is up, guys? I Grover Spilt Milk here. It is currently the 7th of July today, a significant day in the UK. 19 years ago, after London attacks, my thoughts and condolences are to everyone affected by that tragic event. And 19 years on after 2005, I'm also thinking about Formula One. Just watched the British Grand Prix. Um, and this means that we are now officially halfway through the 2024 season. I haven't posted much about Formula One this year. Had a busy year personally, but I promised myself I would make a video at the halfway point, and here I am. So strap in, and there's lots for me to talk about. I'll do my usual half-season report, ranking the drivers into a top 20, and then doing the quick prediction into the 2025 grid. I've already looked silly so far in my first prediction video. I've got loads wrong so far already, but let me get with the times, and I have a second try of it. So, without further ado, let's rank the 20 full-time drivers. So, sorry, Ollie Bearman. But next year I can talk about you, so that'd be good. So let's do the current 2024 drivers who are on the grid now. Starting with our favourite driver that we all, I'm sure, will be everyone's number 20, Logan Sargent, the Williams driver, who's currently 20th in the standings. His best season of the season was at the British Grand Prix. He finished 11th. His average finishing position is 16.7, and we don't know what he's doing for 2025. So Logan no longer has an excuse of being a rookie anymore. Perhaps is the worst ranked driver of 2023 and not improving much for 2024. Although he's just had his best race in Great Britain, finishing 11th, which also, funny enough, puts him in front of Bottas in the driver's standing based on finishing position. Why have I put Sargent ahead of Bottas? Sargent behind Bottas, I should say. Sargent has finished in last place the most, and I'm sure Bottas will be more likely in getting a points finish by the season's end. Also, Sargent's teammate Albon, in the same car, has got 2 points finishes this season, meaning Sargent is not getting the most out of the car. I'm sure Sargent will be replaced and out of F1 in 2025. Essentially, he's just simply not good enough. Williams needs someone who's at least on the same level as Albon. Sometimes Sargent is on par with Albon. The most recent Grand Prix in Britain is a clear example. But Sargent needs to do this more consistently, and time is very much running out for him. Who I think will play Sargent. Stay tuned later in the video. In 19th place, I've got Kevin Magnussen, the Haas driver. He's currently 16th in the standings. His best finish this season was the 8th place in Austria. His average finishing position is 13 dead on. And we don't know what he's up to for 2025, but I think I don't think he'll be in Formula One in 2025. Might be a bit of a surprise to many of you to see Magnussen is this low in my rankings with 3 points to his name so far. But I remember his bad attitude in Saudi Arabia and Miami, sabotaging his own race for his teammate. Really, if you're a skilled driver, you should not have to resort to such tactics. However, Magnussen has had some good races recently, showing flashes in Canada, Austria, and Britain, scoring good points in Austria in the process. However, teammate Hulkenberg has over 7 times as many points compared to Magnussen. And like with Sargent, if Haas had 2 Hulkenbergs and if Williams had 2 Albons, both teams may be looking a lot better. Should Magnussen be kept on? Well, Hulkenberg is going to sell about Audi. This might help his cause, as well as Haas signing Bearman. Haas might want to keep Magnussen to keep consistency, and so Bearman can be compared with a known entity. But there are lots of other experienced drivers out there who might be better to, might be better to fill this role if they want an experienced driver like Sainz, Ocon, and Daniel Ricciardo and Valtteri Bottas. But whether any of these names will be interested is doubtful. I'd say Magnussen's destiny is not in his hands. It's like musical chairs. If better options are not there when the music stops, Magnussen might get another season. In 18th place, we just spoke about him. I'll just touch upon them briefly. Valtteri Bottas, the Sauber driver, who's currently 21st in the drivers' standings. Yeah, Ollie Behrman. There's always the way, isn't it? There's 20 drivers, but there's always 21, at least 21 places, isn't there? In the standings. So Valtteri Bottas's best finishes was 13th from Monaco and Canada. Of course, with Logan Sargent getting 11th, he now moves ahead of Valtteri Bottas. Valtteri Bottas has got a better average finish of 15.55, and like the other drivers I've mentioned so far, we don't know what he's doing for 2025 yet. I can't put Bottas any higher than 18th at the moment. Yes, he's a former multiple race winner who has finished second in the championship twice. But if I had to compare Bottas and teammate Zhou, I'd say Zhou has a slight edge at the moment, and it's a driver who is most likely, and Bottas is probably the driver most likely to have to make way for the incoming Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg will bring experience to the team, meaning Bottas will be redundant to the team. If they're looking for that way, will Bottas still be on the grid in 2025? Like Magnussen, I don't think he's holding any of the cards. We'll have to see what other drivers do and if it's a good fit for Bottas. Perhaps Bottas to Haas to replace Magnussen. As you can see, I rate Bottas ahead of Magnussen. In addition, it's close between Zhou and Bottas. Neither driver can really get anything out of this car. Obviously, the focus is on the 2026 Audi for the Sauber team. Can both Bottas's and Zhou's careers survive though until that time in the bare bones uninvested Sauber? So next up in the 17th place, both sharing basically the penultimate row on the grid. The Sauber driver is the other Sauber driver, Guan Yu Zhou, who is currently 19th in the standings. His best finish was that 11th place in Bahrain, but with other finishes, Guan Yu Zhou is ahead of Sargent in the standings. So they both finished 11th, but due to other results, Guan Yu Zhou is still ahead of Logan Sargent. And again, we don't know what's happening with Guan Yu Zhou for 2025. Zhou's average finish, by the way, is 15.09, so just slightly better than his teammates at the moment. So one of the three drivers who is still without points finish this season, along with Sargent and Bottas, Zhou is just edging Bottas, which is why I put Zhou ahead of Bottas. Zhou is more likely to have a future in the sport, being younger than Bottas and having a commercial interest, being the only Chinese driver on the grid. Will Zhou still be in the sport in 2025? I think he has more chances compared to drivers below him on my rankings. However, this is his third season in the sport, and he hasn't made much of an impact to keep himself relevant, and he's not been convincing versus Bottas like Albon and Hulkenberg have been doing to their teammates in the same time span. Not much to say on Zhou, not any memorable moments in 2024, good or bad. Zhou's just like his predecessor, turning into his predecessor, Antonio Giovinazzi. He's just been mediocre, he hasn't been setting the world on fire, creating anything memorable. Not many people will complain if Zhou doesn't have a seat in 2025, I would say. So moving up to 16th in my rankings, I've got Esteban Ocon, the outgoing Alpine driver. He's currently driving at the moment, but will be out the team in 2024. He's the only driver we know who's definitely not going to stay at their current team. But obviously barring Hamilton and Hulkenberg. He's currently 18th in the championship. Best finish is 10th places at Miami, Canada, and Spain. An average finish of 13.09, 13th place, 0.09. And as I said before, for 2025, we don't know what he's doing, but we do know he won't be at Alpine next season. He won't be retained at all. So Esteban Ocon is very much at risk of losing his F1 drive altogether, having earned the reputation of being a turbulent teammate. Just ask Alonso and Gasly. I think can move away from Alpine, and also Perez might be as well. And there's a few incidents with Ocon when he was at Racing Point with Perez and the incidents there. So I think a move away from Alpine, it might be good for both parties. Both have been together since 2020. when Alpine was a Renault team, when Renault signed Ocon to a 4-year contract. Something that was unheard of for a midfield team at the time, to commit to a driver for so long, and maybe this was Ocon's undoing. The team began to resent signing Ocon for such a long time. In that time, Alpine have declined, going from a team that was battling McLaren for fourth in the championship to a team free falling. They want to avoid finishing with the wooden spoon, with both Alpines on the back row in the first Grand Prix in 2024, although Alpine are turning it around quickly. It has been 3 years since the fortuitous win in Hungary in 2021, but in 2023 and 2024, Ocon is losing the battle to teammate Gasly, albeit barely. Gasly finished 4 points ahead of Ocon in 2023, and Gasly is leading Ocon by similar margin already in 2024. As such, looking at the standings, I think Alpine might have made a good choice in dropping Ocon. Gasly and Ocon are too similar and competitive. I remember in Miami, I bet Alpine were grimacing seeing the two drivers side by side for at least a lap of the race, slowing both drivers down as they were battling each other. And both drivers came to blows in Monaco with Ocon at fault. After 1.5 seasons, Alpine have their answer as to who is better between Ocon and Gasly. Now is time to try and improve the driver lineup. I think it'd be a battle between Mick Schumacher and Jack Doohan to partner Gasly. Where Ocon will go, who knows? Mercedes are looking for a stopgap for Kimi Antonelli to properly prepare the Italian for Formula One. Sainz, of course, is the main target, but if I'm sure Sainz will only want the seat if he knows it was his for a few seasons, not just for one season. He's just keeping it warm for Kimi and assess him a bit more. Ocon has nothing to lose going to Mercedes for one season, having no drivers that stands to show what he can really do in a top line car. Also, Ocon is managed by, he was at least managed by Toto Wolff. One season at Mercedes might help save Ocon get a drive in 2026 and save his career. Although I'm not sure moves in 2025. Although I'm sure that the moves may be made now will decide who will drive the teams in time for the 2026 regulation change. I will cover more where Ocon might end up later in the video, but after a season and a half, Gasly is now Alpine's sweetheart and main driver, and Ocon has been dumped, and I agree with Alpine's decisions. Next up, in 15th place, I have Daniel Ricciardo in the Racing Bull. I will call them V-Carbs in this video. Visa Cash App Racing Bulls. Yeah, I would never. Who comes up with these names? I have no idea. His best finish was an 8th place in Canada. This is out of the full races, not sprint races. His average finish is 12.60, and for 2025, it's unknown what he's doing. We don't know what is happening. The highlight of Daniel's season is certainly the 4th place in the Miami sprint race, but the formal multiple race winner is really being put in the shade by a teammate Tsunoda, who has scored almost double the amount of points Ricciardo has. So far, Ricciardo F1 has been a disaster. Ricciardo's return to Formula 1, I should say. First being beaten by teammate Tsunoda, and then the second blow of Red Bull signing Perez for another couple of seasons, meaning Ricciardo has his back to the wall, and the hope of a comeback to Red Bull perhaps impossible now. For me, 2024 for VCARB is to decide who will partner the incoming Liam Lawson for 2025 and beyond. Tsunoda is winning the battle so far, and certainly Ricciardo will need to be looking at other options. A punt on the Audi project or being the team leader Haas might have to do for now. Judging on Lawson's 2023 cameo appearance, Lawson is certainly ready for F1, and the Red Bull family will surely miss a trick if they let Lawson slip through their fingers going to another team. Unless Ricciardo can beat Tsunoda, I think Ricciardo may be out of VCARB for 2025. Like other experienced race winners who have been at the pinnacle of the sport, like Bottas, Ricciardo has looked mediocre, and I would recommend Ricciardo to look away from the Red Bull family, as the Red Bull seat's perhaps closed for the rest of his career now. In 14th place, I have Alexander Albon, the Williams driver. He's currently 17th in the standing. His best finish was the 9th places at Monaco in Great Britain. His average finish is 13 places, 13.11, and he's the first driver on my list where we know what he's doing with 2025. He'll be staying at Williams. I think that's a good choice for Alex Albon and for Williams as well. Both. I'm sure this move would work out for both driver and team. So Alex is not as high as what I would normally put him, but it's still a solid effort nonetheless, and he is very much the better Williams driver by a long shot. Although not a regular points finisher, Albon is getting more out of the car compared to teammate Sargent, and in full race qualifying too. Albon whitewash Sargent in 2023 and is on course to do the same in 2024. What more reason do Williams need to drop Sargent? Albon does deserve a seat further up the grid, but hopefully the Williams team can provide Albon with a race-winning machine for 2026 and beyond. Albon does, so good to see Albon and Williams are committed to each other for years to come. Hopefully both driver and team can bring out the best in each other and spur each other to achieve new heights. Next up in 13th place, I've got Pierre Gasly, the Alpine driver who's currently 15th in the standing. His best finish is currently the 9th place at Canada and Spain. His average finishing position is 12.6. And for 2025, we know he'll be staying at Alpine. We always knew the battle between Ocon and Gasly would be close, and it would be fascinating to see who will win the battle after 1.5 seasons. So far, it looks like Gasly will win the battle, and Alpine have betted on Gasly too, who will have a new teammate for 2025. I'm sure this is relief to Gasly after a few leery moments in Miami and Monaco between him and Ocon. And so far, Gasly has got more out of the car compared to Ocon, a year and a half into the relationship between Gasly and Ocon. So in 12th place, I've got Yuki Tsunoda, the VCARB driver. He's currently 12th in the standings. His best finish so far is the 7th in Australia and Miami. His average finishing position is 11.64, pretty much like it was last season. I think the first 5 races, I think he finished 11th in every race. That's like, whoa, that's like very consistent, isn't it? It's a shame there's no points for 11th, but there you go, that's how it goes. Either way, he was doing enough. He was outshining Nick De Vries, so yeah. As I said before, we know Yuki's staying at VCARB. So Yuki has become a consistent point finisher for VCARB. This is why he's been re-signed for them for 2025, and has certainly shown up Ricciardo, almost scoring double the amount of points Ricciardo has scored. If a seat comes up at Red Bull, I would say Tsunoda would get it. But for now, Tsunoda just needs to continue with what he's doing, and then he should end up in the Red Bull or Honda-powered Aston Martin soon. In 11th place, and just outside the points, I have Nico Hülkenberg, the current Haas driver. Is currently 11th in the standings, best of the midfield teams. His best finish so far was the 6th in Austria and Britain. His average finish overall is for the season is 10.18, so just over 10th place. And as we know, Nico Hülkenberg is off to Sauber in 2025, who will become Audi in 2026. Nico is the best of the best driver outside the top 5 teams. He's currently just 1 point behind Stroll in the standings. For me, Stroll should have still been in the sport after Renault dropped him, even though Hülkenberg has never finished on the podium. I'm sure Hülkenberg doesn't really want people to be reminded by that unfavourable stat. But he's certainly proven to be a dependable point scorer, even without the help of teammate Magnussen, who, of course, Magnussen claims it's down to me why you've scored so highly, Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg is certainly believing in the 2026 Audi project, and Hülkenberg is a good fit for the team. He's an experienced German driver who can dependably score points, a solid base for Audi to build on, and can be the second driver for the team if they sign Sainz, for example, or he could end up being a team leader depending on who else will sacrifice their 2025 for a 2026 punt on the Audi. Say for example that Audi or Sauber decide to sign someone like Thierry Pourchaire, someone like that. Certainly getting much more of the Haas compared to Magnussen, Hulkenberg is. So here we go, moving into the top 10, and we're going to award out some points now. So in 10th place and scoring 1 point, we have Lance Stroll, the eternal Aston Martin driver, who's currently 10th in the standings. His best finish so far this season was the 6th place in Australia. His averaging finishing position is 11.27, which is actually worse than Hulkenberg. And as we know, for 2025 and beyond and forevermore, he'll be at Aston Martin surely. I'm not going to waste much time on Stroll. Even Hulkenberg, as I said before, Hulkenberg is finishing better than Stroll on average. And Stroll has only scored half the points that Teammate Alonso has. And this is perhaps why Aston is the clear 5th best team at the moment. But it's just the same argument again. If we had 2 Alonsos at the team, I'm sure that the team would be doing a lot better and at least be a lot closer to the other 4 top teams. So next up, in 9th place, this one might surprise you, and scoring 2 points. Sergio Perez, the Red Bull driver who's currently at Red Bull, is currently 6th in the standings. His best finishes so far are the 2nd places in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, and Japan. His average finish is 5.8, and he'll be staying at Red Bull next season. It's deja vu again from 2023. Sergio does well until Miami and then just falls off a cliff completely. I can't believe that someone who's driving for arguably the best car in the sport has finished 2 laps down on his teammate in the same car at Silverstone in Great Britain. This is the only main reason why Perez is down my rankings, even though he should be doing even though he's finished 2nd 3 times this season, behind Max to take points off Max's rivals. So he's only done it 3 times this year, doing what he should be doing. So that's not very good. Out of the only the quarter time he's doing what he should be doing. 3 of the 12 races so far. So Sergio needs to find the form that he had at the start of the season fast. Even though Sergio has signed for 2025, we know how cutthroat and heartless Red Bull can be. In 8th place, I've got Fernando Alonso, the Aston Martin driver, who's currently 9th in the standing. Surprisingly, his best finish is only so far as a 5th in Saudi Arabia. His average finish is 9.83, and in 2025 we know that he signed quite early for the Aston Martin team, but it ended in speculation of him going to Mercedes or another team. So as I said, when I was making this video, I was shocked to find that Alonso's best finish this season is currently a 5th place for the former double world champion. And the trouble is that Aston Martin has fallen away from the top 4 teams, but clearly ahead of the 5 midfield teams in its own no man's land. It's its own midfield team. But I suppose we'll strive to get the best car. But why strive to get the best car if Lance Stroll is driving one of those cars? Why bother? For Lance, the current situation is perfect. He can drive around out the spotlight compared to 2023, when the Aston Martin was at times the 2nd best car, and he was drawing criticism for not getting the best out the 2nd best car. Maybe Aston Martin are looking to 2026 and its Honda deal, and is currently sacrificing the 2024 and 2025 seasons. I think scraping a podium might be the best result Alonso can look forward to this year. Alonso is already 65 points behind the next driver ahead of him, Hamilton, and is 22 ahead of Stroll, and a few more on top of that ahead of Hulkenberg and Tsunoda. So it looks like it'll be a lonely and boring season for Alonso finishing in 9th place. That's why he's 8th on my list. Alonso's been bad, but not as bad as Perez. Just the car's not been there for Alonso. But Perez has the car, but he's not doing anything with it, and that's why Alonso is ahead of Perez. So in 7th place, I've got Lewis Hamilton, the Mercedes driver who's currently 8th in the standings. His best result was the 1st in Great Britain. His average finish is 5.09, and as we know, he'll be joining Ferrari in 2025. It was looking to be a mediocre season at the start of the season for the Mercedes boys, with a podium seeming to be a far-reaching target. However, the Mercs have found some form, especially recently, and have won the last two races. So hopefully the Mercs might challenge the woeful Ferraris, especially Leclerc. I'm sure Hamilton might be slightly regretting his move now to Ferrari next season, based on how the last few races have gone. In race trim, there is a mere point separating the Mercs, but Russell is so far comprehensively beating Hamilton in qualifying, hence why Russell is ahead of Hamilton in my rankings. In sixth place, I've got George Russell, the other Mercedes driver who's currently seventh in the rankings, and is a point ahead of Hamilton. As we know, his best finish was the first in Austria, and his average finish is 5.2, and he'll be staying at Mercedes in 2025. Russell's just edging out against Hamilton, and will be keen to assert his authority in the Mercedes team, especially when Mercedes, he'll get a new teammate next season. So whoever it be, I'm sure Russell, he'd want to make the Mercedes teams, committed to him. Who will it be? And I'll cover that later on in the video as to who I think might be George Russell's teammate come 2025. But yeah, George is having a good season. He's got that win. I know rather fortuitous, but you have to take those chances when you make it. He perhaps could have won also in Great Britain as well, if you didn't have the issue to retire the car. This is why George put George ahead of Lewis. So in fifth place, I have Charles Leclerc, the Ferrari driver who's currently third in the standings. As we know, he had that popular win in Monaco as his best result so far this season. His average finishing position has been 4.9, and for 2025, of course, he'll be partnering Hamilton at Ferrari. It baffles me how Leclerc is still third in the championship, but he still has a good average finishing record thanks to his good start at the beginning of the season. I suppose I've got the recent memories of Spain onwards where Leclerc's been absolutely just been getting a rough form, and also Leclerc has been on the podium more often than Perez this season. Pretty much tells its own story. It feels like after the Monaco Grand Prix, Leclerc's motivation is gone. I'm sure that's not the case, and he's just going through a rough patch at the moment, like most drivers do. I'm sure he would be ahead. I'm sure if Sainz was fit for Saudi Arabia, I'm sure Sainz will be the one leading the team going into the second part of the season, in the Drivers' Championship. But yeah, this is why it's so important to not miss a race. And that shows how competitive we are at the moment as a sport. I wonder how Leclerc will do against Hamilton next season. The battle for supremacy will be exciting. Next up, in fourth place, we're just missing out on the podium. And it seems to be the story of Oscar's season of the fourth person's season, just slightly, just more than not, just missing out on the podium. I've got Oscar Piastri. The McLaren driver is currently fifth in the standings. He has been on the podium twice this season, those second places in Monaco and Austria. The average, bless me, the average finish for him is 5.75, and as we know, he's staying at McLaren for 2025. As I said before, McLaren's investment in Piastri has paid off big time, and other drivers like Liam Lawson and maybe Jack Doohan might be well served in asking their agents to look for a driver away from their representative driver academies. There are some teams out there like Haas, Aston Martin. They don't have their own driver academy, so I know that they're pretty much in Aston's case, they're not going to have a vacancy for a while. And then they've also got like Yuki Tsunoda lined up as well. But just saying, where for like Liam Lawson and Jack Doohan might be looking at those sort of teams seeing if they can squeeze in there. Another solid season for Piastri so far. Can he get a full race win this season? I can't see why not. Piastri has won a sprint race already last year, and Norris has already won this season. But with a bit of luck, I'm sure Piastri will be able to grab a win in 2024 if the situation arises. So on the last step of the podium, so we're on to the last three drivers now. Who have I put third? It's Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, currently fourth in the standings. His best result so far is that win in Australia. Average finishing position of 3.9, so average result finishing on the podium. And for 2025, we don't know what he's up to, but he won't be at Ferrari because he'll be replaced by Lewis Hamilton. He's perhaps so Carlos is perhaps the biggest enigma in Formula One at the moment. How is a driver of Sainz's caliber be kicked out of Ferrari and have no confirmed drive for 2025? Okay, I know Sainz isn't a once in a generation talent like Verstappen, your Hamiltons, your Leclercs, your Norrises, your Vettels, and Alonso's, but he is close enough to to be like that. And any team would hugely benefit for having Sainz in their lineup. Currently having a good season, and surely would be ahead of Leclerc in the standings if it wasn't for having to sit Saudi Arabia out. If I was Ferrari management, I would not be interested in Hamilton. I'll be trying to keep Sainz. Yes, Hamilton is great for commercial value, and it's setting up for an interesting narrative and story with the battle between Hamilton and Leclerc. But Hamilton only has a few seasons left, and Sainz has proven many a time that he can beat Hamilton and Leclerc on his day. But we've got to remember though, Ferrari did offer Sainz a new contract, but Sainz rejected, meaning Ferrari had to look at other options. Hence why we're in the situation where we're in now. So we can only assume Sainz has signed a deal elsewhere. Otherwise, he wouldn't have. Who would want to leave Ferrari? Seeing the 2025 lineup so far, all the top seats are gone except Mercedes, which would only have been a one-season stopgap basis of Mercedes, assess Kimi, and Antonelli, who I don't think will be quite ready for F1 yet, and another season for him in F2 would be beneficial. As such, with the transfer market, Sainz and Mercedes are holding the keys. Once Sainz is signed to a team and or Mercedes make a signing, this will then open up the grid again. I think we'll start seeing some moves. I'm sure the lower teams will happily move heaven and earth to sign Sainz, but it would even be worth breaking a contract, to get Sainz for one of those teams. So if you've got your two drivers, if you've got them signed, you would break a contract with one of them surely to get Sainz. I think we're in for exciting end of season. So I'm certain Sainz will be on the 2025 grid. But why would you reject a Ferrari contract? That's what I want to know. I'm sure we'll find out who wooed Sainz soon. So next up in second place, we've got the two championship protagonists in my top two, as they should be. In second place, we've got Lando Norris, the McLaren driver. He's currently second in the standings. His best result getting that win in Miami, and his average finishing position is 3.45. He's another driver whose average position will be finishing on the podium. So one word for Norris this season, I'll sum up in one word: finally. Finally, Norris has a card to show his talent. Finally, Norris has won his first race. Finally, Norris is the main challenger for the championship. If Austria onwards is anything to go by, do we now have a driver who can consistently go toe-to-toe with Max in this current era, and be on the same piece of tarmac as Max, and not to be, and by that I don't mean being lapped or being overtaken or that sort of thing. I think so. We're in for an exciting end of the season. I don't think Norris will be able to win the championship this season, but I think certainly he will have a chance in 2025. So in first place, well, no. It's Max Verstappen, of course, the Red Bull driver. He's currently first in the standings. He's had how many wins has he had? He's won in Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Japan, China, Emilia Romagna, Canada, and Spain. I make that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wins so far. And amazing stat, his average finishing position is second. It's 2. So I think when I added up all his positions, it came to 22, and then he's finished 11 races. So 22 divided by 11 is 2. So his average finishing position is 2. Of course, those getting those fifths and sixths at other circuits and second places, other circuits as well, is just bringing them down, away from being first all the time. Already, I think Max has one hand on the title in 2024, but he should expect a challenge next season. Not quite an almost invincible season like in 2023, but still dominating enough where I think Verstappen should retain his title. Without a doubt, the best driver in the sport at the moment, but let's see if this is still the case in 2025. So there you have it. My rankings for the mid-2024, for the middle of the 2024 season. Now, let's look at next season for 2025 with my predictions. Now, the drivers with normal formatting are confirmed, and the one in italics and in brackets are my predictions. After a quiet, silly season in 2024, I expect there to be some changes going into 2025 as the teams prepare their lineups for the 2026 regulation change. We've already had a few moves confirmed already, with Hamilton going to Ferrari after Sainz rejects the new Ferrari contract, and Hulkenberg's already decided to sacrifice his 2025, is returning to Sauber for a second stint at the team as they transition into Audi for 2026. One incumbent driver will lose their seat guaranteed. This is due to Haas signing rookie Oliver Behrman after an impressive drive filling in for Sainz in Saudi Arabia. Also to note, Alpine and Ocon have announced they'll be parting ways at the end of the 2024 season. So Ocon will be looking for a new team, or he will be out of the sport altogether. So there's a few as you can see there's a few gaps left on the grid to go. So we'll start with Carlos Sainz, because he's holding the keys. So I don't think Carlos Sainz will go to Mercedes. He won't go there just for one season. So I think it's between Sauber and Williams. I think because they've got the plan right now, I think Carlos Sainz will go to Williams. It'd be an interesting lineup: Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, both products of the Red Bull Academy system. Be interesting to see how these two duke it out against each other. Just to see how they compare with each other. Is Alex the real deal, or is Carlos? Is he just inflated because he's been driving for some good teams like McLaren, Renault, and Ferrari? It'd be a true test to see who will be the better driver out of Albon and Sainz. So with Sainz not going to Mercedes, I think Mercedes they'll sign Esteban Ocon. Esteban I'm sure is desperate for a drive anywhere. So just to keep his career alive, he will happily take a season at Mercedes. I think that's what Esteban needs, just a season just to prove himself, and go toe to toe with Russell, just to show that he's still a useful driver. He can be, perhaps he can try and be a good teammate this time, and decreases his appeal. Of course, VCARB they're going to sign Liam Lawson in to replace Daniel Ricciardo. With Alpine, it's a toss-up between Mick Schumacher and Jack Doohan. I reckon Jack Doohan's worth a chance. With Sauber, I just find it criminal they haven't committed to Théo Pourchaire yet. Their academy driver who's finished second and then first last season in F2. I just find it baffling how he's without a seat. I know it's a case where if you win F2, you don't always get a seat, but I just find it madness that Théo Pourchaire has not been signed to an F1 team yet. I'm sure that Théo Pourchaire will be excited by the the Audi project, and so I reckon he'll be a good signing. And then finally, I believe Haas. It's going to be I think it's going to be a close battle between Zhou and Ricardo as to both. I think Haas are looking for an experienced driver to help Ollie Behrman in his first season. Both drivers are very similar, sort of in the way. Both have great commercial benefit, as it were, as well. Zhou having the Chinese audience, Daniel Ricciardo. Everyone likes Daniel. Everyone likes Daniel. I forgot his nickname there. Robbie. I forgot his name now. In his shoey. Bobby Rick. That's the word. Bobby Rick. That's his nickname. We'll see what will happen for the 2025 grid. So those are my predictions. Unfortunately, I think we're going to say goodbye to Zhou, Bottas, Sargent, and Magnussen at the end of the season. I think definitely Sargent and Magnussen. I don't think they should be in the sport anymore. I do feel sorry for Bottas and Zhou, but again, at the moment, like I said before with Zhou, it's like becoming like Antonio Giovinazzi, like completely like irrelevant. Like it's one thing just doing your own thing, but you got to like have a few breakout moments, like to show that you can on occasion when you can you're stepping up to the plate and you're getting a good result. With Bottas, it's just the case. It's just I know he's like been finishing second twice in the championship before, but I think there's no room for him anymore. He might go to Haas to like I said, to fill in the role that Daniel Ricciardo or Zhou would fill, like being an experienced teammate to Behrman. But I think out of all three of them, I think you'd give it to Daniel Ricciardo. Bottas hasn't had a good season, and none of them had a good season. But out of all of them, I reckon Ricciardo's the only one with points at the moment. He'll be. I reckon he'll be at the top of the list. So there you have it. There's my predictions, and that's my rankings for 2024. What do you think? Don't forget to put it in the like, comment, and subscribe. And I want to see in the comments what you think about my predictions. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you at the end of the season.